Call this Northborough Fire Station Building Committee to order, meeting to order, January 10th, 2024, at 6:30. Just want to remind everybody that this is a public meeting, but there will be no public input tonight. First order of business is the approval of the minutes from the December 20th, 2023 meeting. Do I hear a motion or questions?
Madam Chair, a motion to adopt the minutes as is.
Do I hear a second?
I have a question.
Yeah,
I guess that's after the second.
No, you can
it's okay.
go ahead and second
Okay.
and then discuss.
I can second it and I can ask you a question. So the discussion on joint meeting results, I was not at the joint meeting, but we noted that it was accepted by both committees to incorporate arches to the design, and then that arch doors were accepted by both committees. I know that that everyone liked the ideas of arches, but what do we mean by the term accepted? In what context? Because
Yeah, that's a fair question.
in the last meeting, we talked about options with arches that were not necessarily associated with doors.
We talked
as
a
well.
lot about arches, didn't we?
We did, which is fine.
Yes.
But I wasn't clear on exactly what the intent of that was. in the
What
minutes.
wording, I don't mean to speak for the chair, but what wording do you think would be more appropriate? Because I think the idea was there were no objections from master plan or from design review to incorporating arches. I thought they were both, I think that's what the intent was.
So they accepted the idea of using them, but this one specifically refers to arch doors, and in my mind, was just like thinking about that
So maybe we
relative to our last meeting.
Arch doors and arches.
Incorporating arches in the
Again,
design.
I wasn't there, I just wanted to
No,
understand.
I think incorporating arches in the design would be an appropriate
Okay,
wording.
Okay.
Because that would cover pretty broad.
Okay.
so does somebody want to make that amendment?
I'll make the amendment to change it. I don't have the section, but to change the wording correct.
Section 2, Chief.
Okay, to change it, because I gave everyone copies of my minutes. To change it from, where is it? Both committees to incorporate arches throughout the design, to both committees agreed to, yeah, what did they have? They don't have doors. What do they have doors?
At the end of that
Last
paragraph,
sentence in that big paragraph.
Okay.
which we might have arch doors.
I would
I
just
just
strike.
don't know the intent
Okay,
of
I would
that.
strike that as is. Just strike that last
Okay.
sentence.
Okay.
This was the old
I have an
doors.
Yeah.
extra copy. I have an extra.
Oh, you do?
So the motion was made to
Strike
strike
the
that
last
last sentence in the first paragraph, number 2.
Yeah.
Do I hear a motion to second the amendment?
Make a motion to second the amendment.
Okay, and you would have seconded, so,
Yes, second.
so, it made, seconded, amended, everybody in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. All right, and the town administrator is on a meeting, but he would like to speak when he comes in, so we'll come back to him.
Okay.
But we will start the public input session discussion. Oh, design
Yeah.
updates, sorry.
Yeah, you're looking at this thing, and
I'm just jumping over. Design updates. Janet? Amy?
you just gotta pop the cover off the front. Gotcha.
Thank you.
You want to slide over here?
Yeah.
There we go.
You have to push hard.
Okay, so, much like our last presentation, we're going to give a little update on the design and then an update on the schedule and the next steps in the design process here. So this is the site plan that you saw at the last meeting. We haven't really developed this much beyond this. We do have the civil engineers and all the engineers working on the project right now, so hopefully at the next presentation you'll have more information from the civil engineers and with their updates to this drawing. One of the things that we talked to the department about afterwards was the possibility of making the parking and drives be on the same elevation so that there could be a connection behind the building. The way this was conceived, there was landscape or hardscape between the two parking areas, the primarily public area on this side of the building and fire department area on this side of the building. We're looking with the engineers right now to see if we can get the grading to work so that we can create a connection there so that vehicles can drive around the entire building. So we'll hopefully have an update on that the next time we meet. The plan, we have tweaked a little bit since the last meeting. This is primarily the plan that you saw before. As we had developed and responded to a lot of the fire department's comments previously, we had incorporated different changes, but we really needed to take another look and make sure that we were right-sizing everything. We took a deep dive comparing the program to the spaces that we had here, looked at some code issues that we had already identified, made a few adjustments. No real drastic changes, but as I say, just some tweaks to the spaces to get the plan a little bit tighter and working a little bit more smoothly. We did send it off to the fire department. Chief, seemed like you guys were pleased.
Yeah, Debbie and I reviewed it today, and we were really happy with what you've done, except, I think we had one suggestion for
Yeah.
doors in the showers, and that was it.
Yeah, right there in that area. We'll be looking at that to rearrange the doors a little bit, but I think we were pretty pleased and it works well.
Okay,
One
Kevin,
interruption.
we're gonna just give in, so if you don't mind, I understand that you'd like to speak.
Hi, yeah, if I could, don't mean to hijack the meeting, I'm on another meeting
That's
next
why I
door.
wanted to let you go ahead.
Yeah, so I'm Tim McInerney, I've been to 3 of your meetings and very well run, thank you. And I just, you know, there's things I hear from different people in the community, different committee members and so forth, and I just wanna clear it up as early as possible relative to things like the preemption for the signals. Can you talk about that for a minute?
Sure.
Just how that works when you have to clear both east and westbound
Sure,
traffic?
could you go back to actually to the site? Because that'll actually help me a little bit. So, one of the concerns I've heard from, and I'm sure Tim's heard the same thing, is, well, Dunkin' Donuts is over here, and there's a lot of traffic there during the weekend, and there's all kinds of problems, and they won't be able to get in and out. Well, fire departments dealt with this a long time ago by implementing what's called a preemption system. And it's normally used when you're traveling down the road to turn lights green in the direction you're traveling, to dump the traffic in front of you, and to turn it red in all the directions. Well, the way it would be incorporated here is there would be 2 new lights. One would be down at this end, one would be down at this end, and it would also be tied in to the light down here at Church. Okay? And the way it would work is, as we came out of the station, their sensors will be on this side of the road. And the sensors, if you ever look at a fire truck, you see one center flashing white light. That's a preemption light. What that does is it flashes at a certain frequency. And the sensor picks it up and it does what you program it to do. So what will happen is the doors will open up, the trucks will be fired up, the lights will come on, and it'll hit that preemption receiver immediately. It'll turn all the lights going that way, this light going that way green, this light going that way, and this light going that way at Church green. So it'll dump all of that traffic out and stop anyone from coming in. So the idea is, and this will be here, over here is where the Dunkin's entrance is, right, moving this way. So the intent would be for the light to be between the Dunkin's entrance and the doors. So we didn't have to deal with that either, right? So that will allow us then to dump everything out and for the trucks to have no traffic at all to worry about.
To go east and west?
To go either east or west.
All right. The other thing, thank you for that, and I'm new, right, in 28 days here, so. The other question was about the site, and, you know, the number of stations we currently have, Chief. One
So
station?
currently, we have one station that is centrally located. So when the station before this one was built, back 1924, it was centrally located as well, right on Church Street. They then wanted to keep the station as centrally located in town, so they built the one on Pierce Street. And it's funny, the letter I have from the then chief says, this isn't the best site, but it's the best location, meaning it's centrally located, which allows us to get to all areas of the town within our NFPA required times, which is 5 minutes for a certain type of call, 8 minutes for another type of call. If that station's relocated outside of there, then that becomes an issue.
So you would have to have another station?
You'd have to build a second. So if that station, if we built a station outside of that central zone, and I'm sure Mitch can recall, and so does Don, when we did the feasibility study, we actually drew that area and said, this is the area, if the station's built in this area, it will allow us to maintain our response times. If it's built out of this area, it'll break those response times and we'll have to put a second station in, which includes staffing and
Yeah, so the cost is.
the costs.
Which is gross. And then there was, discussion about a joint building between public safety and, we talked about redundancy and stormproof buildings.
Yeah,
People getting along and that cost is still.
There's lots of things with public safety facilities, some that are very good, because you could share a gym. could share a training room. I can tell you, all the chiefs I know that are in those types of buildings, and my deputy could actually speak to it because he came from one. Sometimes just to book that training room becomes a nightmare, or to use the gym becomes, it's just not because there's not cooperation, just so many people.
Yeah, this is more demand.
We are incredibly lucky in Northborough that we get along very, very well with our police department. All right? That doesn't happen in a lot of places. So that's one issue. The other issue is by putting all your eggs in one basket, not always the best idea. When you put all your public safety in one location and then you have a problem, number one, it becomes a great target, right? Because all your stuff is right there, it's not spread out. And it doesn't allow you to have a remote EOC in case your EOC goes down because you're all in one location. Whereas now we can actually have two EOCs with two separate buildings. So,
Given all that, you have no reservation about this site, with the architect's help of making this site work for you long.
yeah, so the interesting thing about that, and I've been asked, I've been doing it in the fire service for a long time, and I get asked, what's the perfect site for a fire department? I say there isn't one. Perfect site for a fire department is on a nice main road with no traffic, with a line of sight in each direction that will get you to all of your places within 5 minutes. It doesn't exist. Okay, so what we need to do is find a site that is within our strong needs, which is response time, within our high value areas, right? We want to be there, and that will allow us to quickly and efficiently and safely exit onto the main drags and get where we need to get. And this station will do that the way it's designed, the way it's positioned. We've talked about it extensively in these meetings and in separate meetings that we've had just with the fire department. So we do believe this is the best site.
Awesome. I didn't want to take time, I hear it, and I just figured I should ask now, and now I'll say thank you, and let me go back to this other meeting.
I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming in.
Appreciate it.
Thanks, guys. I appreciate you.
Thank you for letting me know.
No problem. Okay. So we were looking at the first floor plan, and as I say, it really is what you've seen before with the public entrance, the training EOC located at the front of the building with easy access for the public, the administration spaces for the fire department, also located on the first floor, the apparatus bays here with all of their support spaces. This is the zone for all the decontamination, so they can get into the gear room and laundry rooms and showers and decontaminate their gear and their bodies before they go into the administrative spaces or up the stairs or elevators to get into the living quarters above. And then some additional support spaces over on this side of the building. We have a training tower and hose tower located at the front of the building here. And then on the second floor, again, very similar to what you've seen before, just some minor tweaks here and there. All of the living, or the bunk rooms are located in this area here with toilet, showers, laundry facilities in the core. And then the day room and kitchen located here with a roof deck located off of that space where they could have outdoor eating facilities and a grill. The fitness room also having a roof terrace located off of that. We've got some support spaces, mechanical, electrical, storage closets and all in this area. And when they are going to respond, they can either go down this stair here, and on the first floor there's a corridor that brings them into the apparatus bays, or they can come down, there's a pole right here, they can go down the pole and then into the apparatus bays, or they can go down this stair, which would get them into the lobby on the first floor and then over into the apparatus bays. So lots of opportunities. So, at the last meeting, we started to show you some different ideas for what the building might look like. We have 6 different elevation options to show you tonight, building upon what we showed you last time. Last time we talked a lot about the roof lines of the buildings, and one of the things that was requested at the last meeting, in this sort of in-between piece, this link piece of the building, we had been showing a flat roof, and the suggestion was to put a pitched roof here to sort of join the pitched roof over in the administration area and create a transition before we get to the hose and training tower and the apparatus bays over here. We've done that on all the schemes. We really liked it. Once we drew it, we thought it was a good move. And so we're going to show that to you on all the schemes going forward. This first scheme is sort of a development from one of the ones that you saw last time. You see this one does not have any arches in it. We did want to, we're showing you all different kinds of arches and no arches to get a sense of what's possible for the building. In this scheme, we are showing, all of them show masonry buildings, all of them show brick buildings. You'll see some different colored masonry. Let's move this because I keep hitting it with my pointer here. Thank you. Okay. The different colors represent different masonry products here. So you see there's a different color base that continues around the whole building and ties the different parts of the building together. You'll see some lines that are indicative of either bands of masonry, that bricks that might be a different color, they might be projecting out, they might be recessed in. And we can talk a little bit about that in the different schemes, but just different ways of developing the masonry facade to give a little more interest to it and to tie different elements together. So in this scheme, we, as I say, we're not showing any arches or anything. This entry here is recessed. There's sort of a column on the corner, and then the entry door is recessed into the facade. There's a really glassy front here that would highlight the hand pump that's, the antique hand pump that's in the lobby space. We've got some banding that you can see here. This is sort of a recessed brick line, creating sort of a rusticated brick facade that's carried over from the administration portion into this sort of link piece. It's on sort of an asymmetric hose tower here, giving a little interest to the hose tower and drawing your eye a little bit more towards the administration building. And then it continues over here into the apparatus. We've got clear stories over the apparatus doors to bring some light in. All of them were showing the monitors, the roof monitors, which would bring light into the apparatus space, which is something that the fire department has seen in other buildings and really likes and wanted to incorporate into this building. Oh, yeah, the retaining, Janet was just talking about the retaining wall. You can see in the background, you get a sense of the height difference because of the slope of the grade there. So on this side of the building, is where it's at its maximum, plus or minus, what, 33 feet? Is that what we guessed?
It's about 30 feet.
Yeah. And then it slopes down along the back of the site. You can see it's much lower over here as the grade drops off. In this scheme, we're showing the hose and training tower with a flat roof option and some glass or some panels at the top to divide up the mass here, give it a little bit of interest. And then we've played with the height of these windows openings so that there's some panel products sort of extending and making them feel like they're a little bit taller. In this scheme, we talked a lot about arches and Richardson as an architect to look at the last meeting, and so we showed some schemes with sort of Richardsonian arches. This is one where we have a heavy Richardsonian sort of style arch at the entrance here. The glass entry into the lobby would be recessed back a few feet behind that arch. Just a couple of feet. We don't have a lot of room to recess it back, but we would recess it back a couple of feet. In this scheme, we've also pulled out the wall here by the training room a little bit to give a little interest in the roof line, having that drop down a bit. We have this base material that continues over and becomes the material in the arch, and then clads this link piece. And again, it gets picked up over the doors to create these horizontal lines. We've got some banding under windows here and above windows here, and that carries over onto the tower and into the apparatus bays here. This is an option where we show a pitched roof on the training tower with a clock in it and some window openings in the tower. And you'll see different window groupings for all of the options that we're going to show you. For the third option, we took that idea of the recessed bricks and the rustication of the masonry in a different direction and used that to define the arch. So these are all recessed bricks, rusticated bricks that form the arch and then continue into horizontal bands on the building, and we've done that in sort of the entry piece here, to again at the hose tower and again at the apparatus bays to sort of draw your eye to those three pieces and link them together. We have, again, a different masonry product base carried through the whole building, as well as some bands above and below the windows. I should say, if you remember on the plan, this portion of the elevation here is actually set back from this portion of the elevation here, so just keep in mind, it's not all on the same plane. It's a little easier to see in the 3D, but just wanted to remind you, as you look at the flat elevations. This has another grand arch at the entrance here. It's a little bit different. You can see there's some rustication just in this part of the building to, again, emphasize the entrance here along with the arch, and that's picked up again in the tower and in the apparatus bays over here. We have a granite, I don't know what we call it, granite sign. And detail right here. It's Northborough Fire Department in the facade at the entrance to Market. And this has a little bit different window pattern with some glass wrapping the corner at the training room, sort of emphasizing that public space there, where there are punched window openings in the more private spaces in other areas of the building. No, I don't think. And then this is similar to something that you saw at the last meeting. We talked about having possibly two arches over the apparatus bay doors and sort of grouping them. So we've taken that idea and used a different precast or masonry product over those doors, and then continued that into a band that wraps over to the entrance and highlights the entrance. This again would be sort of a column and a recessed doors here, but this is more flush with the masonry adjacent to it, and just having the entrance door there recessed. And again, grouping some windows at the training room and the more public spaces, and some more punched window openings at the private spaces in the dorm rooms, and then emphasizing the circulation here at the corridor with windows. We have a different pitched roof on the training and hose tower here, and some window openings on that to add some interest, something that we saw in some of the precedents that we looked at with towers. This scheme has the arches, sort of more shallow arches, repeated at the entrance, and then again over the apparatus bay doors, grouping the doors into the two groupings. We've got, again, masonry products creating these bands, so they run along the building and then become this shallow arch and continue on, and again over the doors at the apparatus bays with that banding. And that picks up with the banding of the base, some different color masonry between the windows, so that you have larger groupings, larger massings, even though you don't have wide expanses of windows. You have the punched window openings, but they start to feel like larger groupings because of the way the masonry joins them together. In this scheme, we're showing, again, a flat roof over the training and hose tower here. And I think, yeah, that was the last one. So there's a lot of different details in all of these, and I think to some degree we can talk about, mixing and matching and all, but we wanted to get some different ideas out there for you guys to look at and talk about. I don't know if anyone wants to comment.
Comments, Mitch?
Sure. I like this one is overall my favorite, I think. I like the arches over the bays, the double arches, and I like the arch mirroring that at the main entrance. I think I saw towers that I liked better than this one, but that's just me.
The skyline on there smacks of the M or
Yep.
opposite of antiquated.
Yes.
Oh,
You see skylight, you mean the
Yeah.
glazing at the
You mean
Yes,
that-
yes, sorry.
you mean this?
Yeah. It's modern in a way that, to me, doesn't match the rest of it, and doesn't match what we're looking for. I'm not an architect, so don't. I'm using all. I'm
still say that.
but I'm probably using the wrong words.
No, you're not.
Okay. Well, thank you.
I agree.
Okay.
It's a different Well, I mean, one of my comments is that this challenge of the mixing and matching, because
Yep.
it's always hard to do that with different sort of,
Yep.
you know, styles basically within one facade. But I do think, I mean, I do like this entrance a lot. I'm not gonna love the two arches, but I understand why Mitch does.
And I could
So,
be,
mean,
I could be talked out of
it's
anything, so.
It's definitely developed nicely since
Yeah.
the last version of it. I had a question about the heavy rusticated one, or just the rustication in general. Is that still being accomplished with all masonry?
Yes.
What, like, standard work?
Yeah.
Okay. I wasn't sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Not,
wasn't sure where it like came and created the art.
yeah, we have to do some study on
Okay,
how to
it's
do
interesting
that.
brickwork.
Yeah.
Just curious.
Anyone else?
I think we're, you know, the attempt was to, the buildings last time felt so one building tower, a second building, and trying to bring them together through the materials,
Yeah.
mostly because the spaces are so extremely different on both sides. They don't relate to each other on any scale, you know, that's normal. So that was part of that look at just treating it very clean on one side and using the rustications. That was the attempt to do that, so.
But I do like the fact that you did express the different functions we talked in the last meeting, when the apparatus bay is one use, and we clearly recognize that the stair tower, hose tower anchors the middle, and then the administrative residential. I think that being developed in all the schemes, by using materials and the punched windows to tie together is very helpful. But I'm not wild about the windows.
All windows
well,
or
they-
any of them?
They suggest casement windows or
Oh.
awning hopper windows. I think there's an opportunity for more detail there that would reinforce the brick detailing. And I'm looking at the far left support spaces, and maybe that could be bumped up or expressed, so we have a clear termination of that end of the building, because it kind of goes off into the
Right.
distance by itself. But if there's a way of accenting that corner, which is also another type of function, different from the apparatus, I think that would help frame the entire building for me. I do like arched entries. It doesn't necessarily have to be a Richardsonian one, but I mean, the segmental arch that you showed in the last schemes and over the entrance, as well as the apparatus doors, that works well. That type of tying the geometry together works well. Maybe you, again, put it into the tower in some way.
Yeah, it's
And
one
you
thing,
get
we
the-
didn't put one up on the tower.
Yeah, so, no, I think, overall, I think there's a lot of good options here that we can work with. And it works well with your floor plan, the functionality of the site.
Yeah, it's all very
yeah.
well.
So one of the things that the implementation committee was talking about is making this an anchor building, an inspiration for the hopeful restoration of our downtown. And that's clearly in our master plan. There's also a component about sustainability in our master plan, and that, we can't lose focus of that, on that.
Right.
And I think we've talked about it with your consultants. I don't know how that would be expressed at this phase, but I think the potential for the solar system, the daylighting, tighter shell, very efficient HVAC, I mean, maybe triple glazed windows,
Yeah.
those all work well with what you're proposing. Masonry is a time-honored New England material that will give us, you know, the 50 to 75 year that we need. So I think we're going a long ways towards reaching our goals here. That's it.
The plan in all of these was to have the clear story, or the monitors, and then they're facing the right direction, and then do solar panels on wherever we can, on roofs,
Mhm.
to take advantage of that,
Right.
as concepts, at least for that kind of, and there's also, you know, where we have flat roofs, you know, there's always an opportunity to do a green roof, which we've done quite a few of those, so,
What do you mean by green?
A green roof?
With turf?
Yeah,
Oh, I wouldn't do that.
really?
I wouldn't put earth on top of my building.
Not turf, no, well, it's not turf, it's, sedum.
Sedum.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, I would just use lots of insulation.
We do both.
Yeah.
It protects the roof a bit.
Mhm.
I mean, we put in, I don't know, 3 or 4 green roofs on fire and police stations recently. But we don't know yet, and, we're
Right.
trying to hone in on the plans, and, we'll make our proposals. But I think the light, opportunities with the monitors is great for the
Yep.
fire department. He's very.
I don't see the monitors on this one, though. Are they there? I assume they would be there.
Can't see them.
Yeah, I
Okay.
think the parapet is either higher or,
Okay.
the intent is certainly that they'd be there for all of
Yeah,
them.
yeah.
Do all the flat roof schemes have a parapet on two sides? Is that the way
We
it's?
have a parapet on all the sides.
All sides,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah. So,
I have a question. I'm just thinking about the tower because it does stand out as being so different in this iteration. And I don't know that, did anyone feel like any of the towers that we saw would work well? This seems to be a popular option.
I like that tower.
Yeah,
I like
okay,
that one.
yeah, I like that one too.
Yeah,
Because I think it works well with the roof lines.
and it screams more New Englandy than the other.
You don't want to get too ecclesiastical here.
It's not a house of worship.
I am obviously more interested in the functionality of the inside. But, having said that, I do like the 2 arches and I do like that tower. So I like the arch over the front door. It gives you an idea where the front door is. I like that. But obviously, I'm more interested in the inside as an end user.
Oh, my turn? Can we go to the last picture, the last option? Yeah. I really like that one, and as Captain Brohart said, I like the arch over the main door, kind of draws you into, here's your main entrance.
Yep.
I do not like that tower in any way, shape, or form. Sorry, just don't. I do like the other tower, I think that would fit in there nicer.
This tower.
But I really like what you've done by, if I may, I just think that the way you've done this really ties it together much better than what we had before. I love this look, and you said this is slightly, we said slightly. So it's gonna break it up more. You're not looking at this big monolith of a building there. It's much more pleasing to the eye, in my opinion.
that whole center section sits back, and you recall on the plan, so there is, you do read some distinct shapes
Yeah.
there. Yeah, so.
Do you have any mapping shots?
You know,
You don't, that's okay.
no, we don't. I'll tell you, we have them, and we were putting them in, and then we realized we were missing 2, and Mark had already left, and so we took them all out rather than putting them all partially in. So
Right.
I'm sorry.
That would be another
Yeah,
opportunity.
I should have left them in the back and showed the one. This is the one we did not have.
So with an architect's eye, which one do you like best?
Ooh.
Oh, you said it too. I'm not gonna say that.
There's no designer recommendation?
Go ahead.
No, I mean,
They don't want arches.
Yeah.
we wouldn't put anything in front of you that we didn't think, had merit. I think that, we think they all have merit, but we think we could take them all a little bit further.
Oh, they all need to go further,
Yeah.
I'm warming up to the big arches, it's.
I'm with you, I'm warming up.
Yes, so I have to be honest about that, I'm a little
So
bit.
when can we start?
When can we finish?
Yes.
But they do help the big elevation tied to this wall and this option, so.
So, I agree with everybody in this committee be receptive to this design with a different tower.
I am, yeah.
Mark, comment?
I just have some questions. So you mentioned windows. So what are your thoughts on the windows for this?
Well, are they operable?
Yes,
Okay.
all of them are off. Well, not every.
They're crank,
Uh,
or have
these
you looked
could
at
be-
double
and
hung
these could be
possibility?
They could be,
Double hung possible?
costly, we have,
So
and
what,
put on a double hundred.
So what is, I mean, what is your thoughts on double hung versus what type of windows?
We need the
operation?
ones with the easiest maintenance.
Easiest maintenance? Okay.
Whatever's the, because this building, our intent is to keep this building for a long time, right? So we want to maintain it. In order to maintain it, whatever's the easiest to maintain and keep it looking the nicest, I think would be what we would prefer. We're not gonna open the windows a lot,
Okay.
right? Especially in the EOC section, in the training section.
But
You know,
those wouldn't be off, you wouldn't,
We're gonna have, that needs to be secure, obviously. And we're gonna have a fairly good system in here to maintain the climate, so I don't see us having to open those windows a lot. No, it's still nice that, okay, fire chief's point of view, we need emergency exits, we need to have windows that can open so we can get out the windows. I understand that, and I don't disagree with that. I can't disagree with that. But I don't know enough about windows to tell you what styles you should put in there.
I mean, it could be top hinge, they could be casement, they could be.
Combination,
Yeah,
pivot.
there's a whole bunch of options with that shape
Yeah.
right there. You could even have, you could even have that one at the piece on the bottom, and then they could operate so you'd have lower levels of air coming in. There's a lot of options for the windows. Casement is one thing we haven't done. It's been a while.
No, I think, gosh,
Yeah, I take that back. It's been a while.
so what do you currently have in the fire station now? Are they operable windows?
They are.
And do you use them? Do you open them?
We do, we actually have 2 windows now that we actually take the old windows and put an air conditioner in because the air conditioning doesn't work. So
Okay.
it's a very tough question to answer. They're sliding windows
They're
with
sliding
broken,
windows,
broken
okay.
screens. Yeah, yeah,
All the windows
yeah,
slide.
yeah.
Okay.
So
But
we
some
went-
are permanent
we went
because
through
they-
a space that didn't have an operable window. I mean, it's airtight, and
Yeah.
the building code says one thing, how tight things, but I would never want to put a living space that didn't have an operable
You
window.
need to have the option of opening it.
Yeah, people, sleep in the cold, and they sleep in the heat, and people like a little bit of fresh air no matter
Oh,
what.
yeah,
time of
the
year.
firefighters at night, I can guarantee they'll be opening, their bedroom windows.
Yeah. And then there are some spaces that don't need to be operable, and they won't be, maybe, we haven't really figured that one out yet, so.
Yeah, I know a lot of times with your HVAC systems are so well balanced that you're not supposed to open windows. Am I correct with that? Or at least I've heard that. Is that a proper statement?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Uh,
Doesn't mean you can't.
Yeah.
If, the library where there's big signs that say, do not open the windows,
Yeah.
on all the windows. And I don't know if that's, because they're hard to close. I have no idea why they're on there. Just kind of hit me.
No, have we given you enough direction that you feel comfortable?
Pardon me?
Have we given you enough direction that you feel comfortable?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
Does anybody have any more input on design?
Madam Chair, I have a question. What will we be using next week at the public input session?
Yeah. Well, let's go on to the next one. We can always come back to this, but if you want to do the schedule here, I'll take on the schedule. We only are showing the schematic design schedule because we keep changing it, and it takes a while to go through it, and the meeting might be changing again, so the overall schedule hasn't shifted at all at this point. End of February, end of May or early June, or the CBs mid-September, and then bidding by the end of October. We'll try to overlay those with the dates that are on your, all your, these dates the chief has.
Yeah, I put together, and you should all have a copy of this, just our current, what we know currently is happening. Right, so we have the meeting tonight, the public input on the 17th, design review it on the 25th at 8:30, the next fire station building committee on the 31st at 6:30. The ones we need to understand how to work in is so that cost estimate presented should be before our second design review committee, is that correct?
Yeah, so here's the schedule.
Yeah.
Can you all see that?
Yep.
So we have the meeting we're at. I'll just tell you, items under 9 and 10, the engineers have been released to come up with their geotechnical working schedule and get it to us, so that will start, somewhat shortly now. And then we're down on item number
15.
15, yeah, 15.
Oh.
Oh, is that
They're not in
15?
order.
Oh, shoot.
I think you moved
I moved it.
meetings and
Moved
didn't
the meeting up,
renumber.
and
Yeah.
Yeah, that's bad,
So
sorry.
we're right
Right
here.
here, sorry. That's the January 10th meeting, and then next week, we have a community information session number 2 on 17th. The following day, we submit our drawings to the design review board for the week of the January 5th meeting. And then after that, we come back to a week after that.
January 25th meeting.
25th, did I say February? January 25th, and I can't even see the schedule, I should read it on my phone here, I can't see that far. And then on the,
January 31st. we
January
come back.
31st, we come back to you, and we'll have the results. At that point, you'll have to release us to get our schematic design estimate done. We'll have our drawings, and then there's a process of a couple weeks where the estimator will be working on it, and we'll come back to you with results of that on February 20th. That's where we shifted the week in that schedule right there to the end of February, which we didn't think.
Will you have the other elevations available in this next 3 to 4 weeks? The rear and the sides?
Oh, yeah,
Okay.
oh, yeah, yeah. So,
And it may be a site section showing the wall behind the building?
yeah, you would see it, that's why when Amy that pointed out in those elevations, because people asked the last time, and we were saying it's not the whole thing,
Right.
it does taper down as the site flattens out, and you can see some of the high points, which,
Is it still possible to maybe terrace
yep, we're looking.
The engineers are looking at that.
At that.
on the right side?
Yeah, so, so the engineers are working on the site and, trying to deal with all of the site issues right now. So, so we have 2 committee meetings remaining in schematic design plus the cost estimate. And one is to release us to go to the cost estimate, and then the results of the cost estimate. We have the community information meeting and then the design review meeting in this schematic design phase. All these subsequent meetings that we've been talking about will happen in design development as well. So then the next slide, Amy, is just what you were just asking, which is where do we go from here? Public information meeting next week, submit the design review documents the next day, design review meeting, cost estimate, and then approve it to meet design development. So that's all our next steps. So your question whether we have another set of elevations that you would see, yes, because we're working on it, but we're gonna have to get an SD package together. We also need to get elevations released to GGD so they can do their life cycle cost analysis, which will be critical to do, and that takes a month of time. So we've gotta get something to them. As far as the back elevations, like there's doors on the back side that look like the front side. There's not a whole lot of windows, or openings in the rest of the plan.
Well, are you only gonna do the rustication on the
No,
front and side? You're gonna have elements all the way around?
We would continue it,
Okay.
we would continue it as appropriate. But you can see there's, on the first floor, there could be windows, on that left side, if we wanted to make that element of support on the left side of the apparatus. We could, there will be some doors in that. There could be some windows, they're primarily workspaces, so don't need them, but if we find that they would be helpful, we'll certainly put them in. There's not a lot on the back side of the building, those are storage spaces.
Storage and electric room in here.
And then you go to windows, that are,
That side faces the public parking.
yeah, our space is public parking, and then the back wall of the training room will be the teaching wall.
Yeah.
So on all likelihood, that's gonna be solid, although there could be windows perhaps on the ends, but you really want a teaching wall somewhere. And we put it on that back wall, it seems to make sense, and you could, windows.
And there's also a separation between that side of the building and the parking area, so there's some landscaping
Yeah.
opportunity.
So we will complete those elevations, we have been working on them, but, we complete those with the window patterns that'll match and see. So it gets back to, on the schedule, what do we present, number one, at the public meeting, and what do we present to the design review board, or on their meeting? We have a package that's due, how much do we share, do you select, it sounded like you're zoning in on one scheme, this preference, we'll fine tune all those. I don't know, to do that, if you feel comfortable with us taking one of those and going to the committees, so it's up to you.
I personally think that that's almost what we need to do. I don't know how everybody else feels, but
I agree.
the longer we don't submit something, the more questions we're gonna have.
We all seem to be comfortable with that, the final scheme, that's at number 6, in principle, with the tower change.
With the tower change.
So it seems like,
That tower and then the last one.
Yeah, we're calling it K. We've got
Okay.
letters.
Just
And
right
just so you
above.
know, we did start with A again, but last week we had A, B, C, D, and I always like to keep going continuous, so that if someone comes back and says, what about B?
Oh,
There's not
You
two
know, you
Bs,
want
so
to-
that's, you want to
Yeah.
say, you know, I learned in the past, either you have to do A1 and then it becomes.
If you guys could send this to me tomorrow, that would be great, so I can put it up.
Yeah,
Yeah, I was gonna suggest that. That's good.
so we'll be working primarily with this one, but with the difference of the panels, trim and the rest of the sides
And the J tower.
and the
This is
J
scheme
tower,
J.
or something to the J.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So design review also will have questions about the site design,
Yes,
Yeah.
and they're working on that.
site lighting,
Site lighting, yeah.
snow storage, removal,
Yeah.
plantings, any possibilities, what is the retaining walls made out of?
Yep.
Dark sky lighting, they love dark sky lighting, that kind of stuff. So it'll come up. It doesn't have to be all answered, because you have 2 other meetings with design review
Right,
in the process, but those are the areas that
yeah.
they'll ask
It
about.
was helpful, Nicole and Ray were at the meeting with the
Yeah.
joint group, so they heard a lot there, and, we did hear things like, you know, they don't want to place trees that they're in the line of sight, so that the safety is paramount for everybody, things like that, they've already, in some mark, they're already working on it. Request for the DPW to get rid of the tree wells, because they create problems with plowing. We're gonna have Ray do one with and one without, or something like that, everybody's gonna do, things like that. And then the big retaining wall in the back, obviously, is, an issue.
So we definitely, we want to look at both straight wall and terrace. Is that the request from, okay.
And there are some requirements in the town bylaw for screening between commercial and residential, distances, plantings. So your landscape designers need to be familiar with the bylaws, because there's quite a few things about the number and size of trees,
Okay.
et cetera.
To that point, beyond the bank, there's 1 or 2 houses back there,
Back to the site.
and you've got Monument Street up and beyond this. I don't know what the proximity is relative to the butters. Does that come into play?
If you abut a residential zone,
Zone.
there are requirements in the bylaw for buffering and plantings.
Got plenty of trees.
Well, it may be satisfied already by the natural
Might be.
conditions, but I don't know. You have to check these things.
Question on the retaining wall, just while I'm thinking about it. Obviously, towards the right, there's gonna be a pretty large wall, it just has to be. Is there any opportunity for that to be functional at all for training or have some other purpose?
Sure. We won't be throwing a ladder up there, I can probably tell you.
Yeah, I just thinking, something unique, if there's some something you could do with it. We're gonna have to have it, but if there's something you can do with it.
Yeah, one
that's
of the things we
functional.
talked about was, right now, the emergency generator is in the,
It's right back there.
it's in that area right there. We want to move that back, we want to back into the wall area, right? So we want to
Yeah.
use that area for that, or to get it out of the way, for a couple of reasons. Number one, we want to use that area for, we talked about snow storage, and
Mhm.
it's a great way for that, right? And it also keeps the sound away from us a little bit, more when it kicks off. But yeah, there's always, we can discuss.
Yeah, I
options.
mean, it's gonna, obviously, it's a structural, you know, it's not a little thing that they're gonna pat into the ground, it's pretty high,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've done training off the building too, if the department wants it, we certainly do.
Just put anchor points in.
We're
and-
calling off
Yeah.
the front of the buildings or the side of the building, wherever it makes sense. We'll have openings in all the stairs in the back of that to have different kind of window opportunities for the department to train on and things like that. So we'll build that into the rear portions as well, so we can do that.
Will the mechanical equipment be on the flat roof of the building?
Yeah.
that portion, towards the rear.
Yeah.
That's what we're thinking,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's what we're thinking.
So the parapet and the monitors would screen that from sight.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see anything happening in the front portion, so there's opportunities,
And above the mechanical room, it's flat.
yeah, above, yes.
Mhm.
So there's the
It's
mechanical
flat
room
roof
right
and-
there.
And the fitness area is a flat roof.
There's a possibility that fitness room turns another direction, and there's mechanical slot there too. I don't know until they get a chance to really see what they need
Mhm.
for the mechanicals. And then the monitors will run, that way, and so there's opportunities there as well. So we'll have to wait and see what they come up with, and that'll affect the final plan, of course, But the one roof that will not get mechanical equipment is adjacent to the living quarters. Fitness not so important, what happens on that roof. We like to have it as wide open as possible, but it had to have mechanical equipment, not only mechanical, so there's opportunities for screening for the front of the building, yeah.
So will you also be generating a space list with the sizes?
We can,
Okay,
yeah, I mean, the building has grown, and part of it's grown because of the way the equipment's laid out and the doors. Some of it was requested from the fire department. I did tell the chief that I just did this entire exercise in the last week of going through every single space and comparing it to the program to see where the things, and remarkably, things have not grown a lot, but corridors grew a little bit because we had a space, and then somebody asked us to refine the space, and we shifted it, but we didn't change the corridor. We tightened all that up. And so I'm continuing to.
That's a deputy, he does it all the time.
It's just what happens when you're like kind of constantly like tweaking little spaces, you gotta go back and look. So we've tightened up the plan, a bit, and we'll continue to see if there's any other places to tighten up. But it has definitely grown. And part of it's the site layout, everything is sort of off one side, so you have some if you looked at the band corridor, we got rid of one long corridor, which we were very happy to get rid of. But we had to redo the plan to make that happen, but we sensed, we kept putting a plan and then putting a corridor, and then we had all these corridors, there's a lot of corridors, so we'll continue to check it out.
Janet, at one time you had cited that this would be roughly 27,000 gross square feet.
It's not,
Okay.
it's closer to 30 or 31 at this point. So we are, I think I cut, I wasn't.
600 and.
632,
Yeah,
but
give me the
probably
exact
in the
number.
end, it's back up, so we gotta, I know that the fire department would like to make some of the spaces bigger, but I really can't do that right now without your permission. And in many fire stations, the second floor, the first floor, they're off scale from each other. You have to have so many things on the first floor, and you have less on the second floor, so you end up with these spaces left, and, the temptation for us is to get that space to the fire department, but that's also cost money. So, Tim will allow me, and Archie will allow me. So I'm saying no right now.
I already put it on my calculator.
We've been calculating. But we've also made this apparatus space smaller since the last time we saw one. Tighten it up. Because we have to put it in, if you go back one plan, so those doors take up more space, and then you have to make them, point to where you have to make them accessible, so like depending on the
So
truck layout.
So depending on the truck layout, the diagonal distance from the corner of the truck and where the folded door projects into the room, you have to have an egress path there to get people by it. So there's a minimum dimension there, and the doors, they take up quite a bit of space when they fold in, so.
So that's added.
It's added some square footage.
So we tightened that up a bit by slightly rearranging the trucks and tightened that up. So we're doing all that because we have to. The actual spaces, pretty much right on, the space was supposed to be 120, it's 120, this is supposed to be 200, it's 200. We've added some bathrooms, toilet rooms that the department's asked for. So we've got a couple things like that we hadn't counted on.
That's a very good use of
I
space.
think when people do programming, and they think it sounds great, and then they look at the plan and say, what we need, or we want, and it grows, so we're really trying to pull it back. So we will get numbers.
So Chief Purcell in Westboro gave me a tour of their fire station so I can better understand how the newer ones work. And he said their biggest regret was the fitness room was too small, because it's such an integral part of their physical and mental well-being. And a lot of people use it constantly.
Yep.
So they have 600 square feet. He said, if you could get more than that, the better.
Yeah, we definitely.
We're currently at 600 square feet.
What's
Is
that?
that what we are?
We are 600 square feet. We do, I mean, there is space to.
And you're
grow
growing
it.
your staff,
Yep.
so,
And you have the outdoor space adjacent to
Say
We
it.
do have outdoor space adjacent to
Okay.
that.
that helps.
It's not year-round solution, but it's allowed for.
Yeah, we can definitely move as well as, at the fitness and likewise, we, the dorm rooms have got bigger than the whole notion of planning for the future
Mhm.
more robustly this time. We enlarged those and then the department rightly said, well, we're doing that, but we haven't enlarged the kitchens and those residual spaces, we kind of pushed out. So those are the things we're grappling with, how to rein it in, without, but, keep going. If you look at the first floor, the second floor grows from the first floor, and what's on the first floor is pretty much the program, as it is, so,
And Janet, again, the distance from the apparatus doors to the street is 65 feet? 55 or 65, trying to think.
I believe it's 65
It's
To the street, that sounds about right enough, though.
55 to 60, but then there's some other 15 feet
Yes,
to
there's
the
a
property
15
line,
feet
and then
from the
another
property
15
line
feet
to
to the
the-
street.
yes.
Okay.
I thought it was 70 overall, 15
so
and
it's
55.
Yes, that
Okay.
sounds about right.
The difference between, and you can go back one more, so you can see the different lines, the property line one is that,
That's the property line,
Yeah.
sorry, that one.
yeah, and then
And then
there's
the
another
street.
10 or something,
Yeah,
so.
thank you.
Which requires a variance,
Yes.
because it's not within 5 to 20 feet.
And I think we mentioned this in the prior meeting, Tom, right?
All right, we have on our schedule a cost estimate presented, but we don't have an actual date.
For which one?
The cost estimate, can you go to the back of your
Oh,
schedule?
yes, good,
I just want to make sure we flesh out some of these dates.
So the cost estimate, one starts, after you give us approval on the 31st
Right.
of January. The cost estimator will take approximately 3 weeks to do their cost estimate. That goes back and forth to us and whatever, and then we come the following week and present that cost estimate to you. So he needs a good 3 to 4 weeks, the whole process, good 3 to 4 weeks to get a good number.
So what would your recommendation for a good date?
It's
February 28th is what
February
we have in the
28th, it's the
schedule.
last item there, out of order, but,
So that would be the 28th, and then the next design review would be after that. Right?
Be a March date for them?
yes.
Design
Yes.
review 2 would be sometime in,
Design review 2 is on January, well, we call it January 2, the next one will be in design development, yes. it will
yes,
be
so that's
after.
not until design development,
Yeah,
and then,
after
so we can wait to get dates for those till later.
Yes, if you're good with this schedule for this month, I'll tackle next month.
Yep, no, I'm just trying to make sure that, as I
Yes.
mentioned, there's time that we need to worry about takes about 3 weeks, right, to get the ZBA, into the ZBA
Yes,
meeting.
yes.
And we're gonna get into planning, we can get into the planning board before we get into the ZBA.
Yes.
When I talked to Lori today, she had said, you submit your application for the ZBA, schedule the planning board before the ZBA, so it's in the middle of the two.
Right. And I think that's the next level schedule,
Yep.
does suggest that it's in the middle of that.
Perfect.
And I will, and based on this and our conversation tonight, I will adjust the next schedule and I can get that out to them in advance so they don't look at it. I started to do it, Amy, so you could be wasting your time, just because we do it.
Okay, so public input session discussion as far as,
Yeah, so that's the next big thing.
what are we looking at presenting next week? present the drawing completed or changed, as this board agreed on, or?
Yeah, so one of the, and if I may, through the chair, one of the things, we have a tight week because of the holiday on Monday, so I need to get the agenda into the clerk's office by Friday. I don't want to all of a sudden go, oops, I don't have the agenda done, and go, I don't know how we're going to do this, and then push us off. So,
I guess the question is, what do you want, I mean, we had the first public information session, we actually had the visioning
Yep,
piece
yep.
of it. So is this an update for them? Here's the site, here's the building plan here, or is the direction of the elevation? Is it limited to those three things?
It's whatever you think we should be presenting at this point in time.
Yeah, I think work done to date and get as much input
Okay.
as possible.
because, yeah, I think the main purpose will be to hear what they have to say about the design that you put up,
Okay.
right? You're going to put something up, and they're going to say, yeah, no, we don't like that, or yeah, we do like that, or whatever it happens to be.
Yeah, and it can be helpful to show some of the iterations and other options.
Do you want to show some of that?
I think it's helpful, but it's also dangerous, and I'm looking at you, and you're on the dangerous side.
Yeah, I
When-
would limit what you show.
Yeah.
When you give options, you're
Yeah.
always going to have someone pick A, someone pick B, someone pick C, and someone pick D.
Also, I think, given that we're going into cost estimating, we need to stick pretty close to what's being estimated and
Yes.
what we're showing.
Yeah.
And I think that we've narrowed it down to basically what we're looking at. At this point in time, we should show them what we're looking at. And, you know, we're looking at maybe little,
Options and colors, maybe, right?
Window design.
Window design,
Yeah.
small things.
but we're
I don't
not
have an issue
starting
with
all
that.
over.
Right.
What do we want to say if somebody says, what's it gonna cost?
We don't know yet.
We don't know yet.
No, no.
Yeah, no,
I've
I think-
already gotten that question.
Yeah.
My
Oh, yeah.
answer to them was, I'm not gonna give you a number, I'm not gonna tell you it's gonna be $100 million, because I have no idea. I don't know.
Yeah, what I tell people is municipal projects are not done from a budget on out. They're done based on need. And then the right thing to do is you do a serious pass-through, and then you get it cost estimated. And then, my assumption is, after the cost estimate, we'll have an opportunity for some discussion if we feel that we need to do any value engineering at that stage. And that's when we'd probably talk to you a little bit more and get your guidance, if we feel, as a committee, that we need to have that discussion, and we won't know until the 28th of February. I think that's a very fair explanation, because that's how it is.
In other words, as much as you feel comfortable presenting next week, that you can.
Present them the design that we like,
Yeah.
with a few options within that design. Right, because the committees pretty much decided what design we like, right? We like that last design with that tower that we picked. Well, that is what should go forward with. These colors may be different, or the banding can be moved, or the
Right.
window design can be different, those types of options. Not, we're gonna move the tower over here, or we're gonna change the roof style, or.
Flip the building.
Yeah.
Tactical changes.
But we'll present, as we have along, this is the reasons we put the building on the site is for, we are all good reasons, it's well
Mhm.
documented, and the plan is an operationally sound, the fire department has looked at it, believes it serves a purpose.
So,
But I think,
go ahead,
I
I'm
was
sorry.
just gonna say, I mean, the deliverable for the public input meeting and design review meeting at this point in design review should be pretty much the same thing. So it's easier for you if you don't have to, do something that's totally
Agreed.
different. I mean, there are specific things that eventually have to be presented to design review, but we're not there with all of that anyway. So,
Yeah, just
It's
show
the same
the
slide.
progress, where we are in time.
Okay. Are you comfortable with that?
So for the agenda, I'm gonna put something to the chair, I don't think you have an issue. You guys okay if I push the minute approval off to the next fire station building committee meeting? All we do is presentation of, so there's one agenda item, basically, or two agenda, yeah. Presentation and anything else to come up, and then.
Yeah. That's what I think. I don't think there should be any regular committee business there unless there's something that we need to do.
It just makes it easier with us putting together the agenda and getting it ready, so.
Okay. All right, so that would bring us to important dates of the timeline. Chief, you just want to talk about these?
Yeah, so what I did, knowing that we were looking at a special town meeting, I reached out to the town clerk, Andy Dowd, and said, Andy, what are the critical dates for us to get things done in order to make, I worked backwards. So I said, in order to make the election in November, what are the dates that we need to make in order to make that November election? So the dates he came up, he says, we have, the deadline to notify the Secretary of State of the special town meeting is August 7th. The deadline for the select board to vote to place the question on a ballot is September 24th. Okay? And he said, he requests that the special town meeting be no later than October 14th, which is a Monday. So those 3 dates, we just need to, I wanted to make sure that the committee was aware of them, and that the architect and the owner's project manager were aware of where we needed to be by those dates, right? So the chair, the board can manage the dates, make sure that the information gets put out, but I just wanted to make sure that everyone was aware of them, as opposed to, oh, my goodness, that deadline passed already, and now we're too late. So I appreciate Andy getting back to me. He did all the research, and especially with the potential of a different special town meeting, and I don't want to get into that, but with the select board was speaking of the other day, we really need to make sure that we get everything to where we're supposed to get.
Chief, marching towards these dates, did you discuss with Andy the mechanics of getting an approval for a bond issue on the November ballot? What's involved with that?
That's all these dates.
This.
Okay.
Yeah,
Right,
that's
right. So we worked from the ballot date back. So in order to get to the ballot, the meeting should be no later than the 14th. To get the meeting on the 14th, the select board needs to decide by the 24th, and for the select board to decide by the 24th, we need to get it to the Secretary of State by August 7th.
Just so you're aware, the 14th is Columbus Day.
I was thinking the same thing. Yeah.
Yeah. We can do it the week before.
Yeah.
That is
October 7th it is.
That's my birthday.
It doesn't have to be a Monday meeting either.
No? Well, I don't know, what this town meeting, special town meeting, is that tied to a specific day of the week?
No, can have it anytime.
Okay. So, doesn't matter.
Yeah, I mean,
We could do it later that week, or?
There's special things you need to do. You need to do a town mailing, you need to do various notifications and things like that. But those are good.
Thank you, Madam Chair, I appreciate it.
And is there a minimum quorum for a meeting like that?
Yeah, I was just reading it because we're talking about having a special town meeting for something else, and it appears it's 100.
Minimum.
I'm not too worried about that for this. I think there will be real interest in this one.
The other one may be tough.
The other one's going to be tough. Yeah.
Okay, combine.
Yeah, we have something completely unrelated to this, so we might need to have a special town meeting before the annual town meeting. I'm crossing my fingers we might be able to avoid that.
I didn't mean to
Yeah.
bring something up, but
Yeah.
it happened to hit me when I was.
Well, it gave me an opportunity to learn what special town meeting rules are in this town, so.
Okay.
So we'll add these dates to our calendar, and I will use the October 7th date as the town meeting date.
Perfect.
I think
Not
that's a good
Columbus
idea.
Day, or you have-
Or sometime that week, sometime the week of the 7th.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Unless you're all gonna take me out drinking after for my birthday.
It doesn't have to be a Monday.
I'm only gonna be
The town
50, so that'll be good.
meeting-
so.
The town meeting, what day of the
It does
week?
not, it's traditionally a Monday, but
It could
yeah,
be
there's
any
no,
day that
could be,
week.
could be
Okay, I'll just say
anytime.
the week of October 7th.
Yeah, I think we should tentatively talk about it as a Monday, so that there's not one other thing that people will get confused about.
Yep.
People are used to having them on Monday, have it on a Monday, unless there's a reason not to.
Excellent.
And August.
All right, any other business that legally can come before the committee?
Could I bring something up? Maybe Mitch could address this. We've had communication to this committee by residents outside of the meeting, public meeting.
Yeah.
So there's rules for public meeting discussions, and I don't believe we should be commenting on people's criticisms or suggestions outside of the public meetings.
Yeah, but I think it's, the fact that members of the public are interested in this process and asking questions about the process, that's good. But the question is, how is the best way for the public to ask, and what's the best way for this committee or its representatives to respond? And those are the things that need to figure out. There was some confusion on the town website as far as different things and different pieces of information. That's been consolidated. That's in much better shape now. I don't remember, is there a contact form on the new one? If not, there should be. Yeah.
Well, so what there is, if you go to the town website, if you go to the Fire Station Building Committee website, the page. It's very limited. It says, click here to go to the detail page, which is the page that I manage.
Yeah.
And the reason for that I did that is so I can manage what's on that page without having to go to, right? So I can very easily put something on there that says, click here to submit any feedback.
Perfect.
But then the question becomes, and again, going with Tom, is how do we reply to that? I'm not comfortable replying, I'm not the chair, I'm not comfortable replying as just the fire chief. If it's a operational question, not an issue. I can reply to an operational question. If it's a design question or a monetary question, I don't want to reply to those.
I think ultimately Don, as chair, has authority and responsibility to deal with that, unless you prefer somebody else doing that, in which case, just let us know as a group, you're delegated to the chief, or me, or Tom, or anybody, to say, when an email comes in, please, you, this one person, respond.
I have a problem with it, only because one of the things I have a problem with is, let's take design review. It sometimes comes in looking as if design review is asking a question, and I don't think design review has had a meeting to even address this. So I don't want to respond to a committee that I don't think has met as a committee.
Yeah, I think it's, I get the same thing on the select board. If I get an email from somebody that's on another committee and it looks like that might be related to that, I ask the question, is this something that your committee is interested in, or are you interested in it as an individual? I think we should answer in both cases. I think a member of the public asks us a question about the work that we're doing, we have a responsibility to respond, but that response takes a different scale and a different level of importance if it is being asked for a committee's work as opposed to an individual's work.
So when it comes to, just following up with Tom's statement, when it comes to public input,
Yes.
is that supposed to be done in a public open meeting, or can that be done? I mean, I don't know
And
bylaw wise.
I get several emails a day from the public on all sorts of select board stuff, and that's,
And so then
That's
how do
normal
you
and fine.
communicate that to the select board?
as chair, if it comes to the entire board, as chair, it's my responsibility to deal with those responses. So I will respond back, depending upon the circumstances, if it's a yes or no or something like that, it's easy. If it's a more complicated question, sometimes I'll reply all and say, I'm going to reply to so-and-so with the information, and then I do a reply just to that person that sent the question, and I will copy the town administrator and usually the vice chair, so that there's no quorum involved.
But
So
I do
there's no-
think
not
that
open
there's a
meeting law thing.
difference between replying to a yes or no question to talking about the 150-foot in front of the doors, and, you know, I don't feel comfortable replying to that, and I don't think as individuals, most of us would. So I think when the public questions something, it should be done either publicly, or we should address it publicly in our next meeting.
I think there's also, along the lines of what you're saying, there's also, for me, an equity issue. Because if someone has the ability to email, which most people do, but not everyone does, and they're able to directly email specific things to specific people, then you're losing out on the whole public input process as it's designed, as I understand it to be designed, I should say.
And I think that that's part of why we decided that we would have these public input sessions.
Yeah.
So, and if you can't, that's the time to send us your questions, and we can address them publicly, just get them to us ahead of time.
Well, I could put on the website, if you have any questions you'd like us to bring up at the public input session that you can't be there, click here and submit your questions.
I-
Is that fair?
Yeah,
I should obviously, whoever's asking the question.
Yeah, I don't want my opinion is we shouldn't have windows where questions will come in and we won't answer them for a long period of time. If we want to say, send in questions, we will answer them and deal with them at our next meeting, I think that's okay, because we're meeting for a while, we're going to be meeting pretty frequently.
Yeah, that's the same.
Yeah, not just a public input meeting, but,
Oh, any meeting.
yeah.
I mean, if you submit questions,
Mhm.
they go on the agenda or
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's what the agenda's for.
So what I can do is I can put on there, if you submit a question, you're not gonna get a response from me or from anyone until the next meeting where we can bring it up and talk about it as a committee and then form the responses there.
And if it's informational, that's one thing that the chief could respond to.
Yeah, operational, I can respond to it, it's not a big deal.
Let's move the site,
Right.
I don't think we should be responding, any of us should be responding. to
Right, if
that.
somebody asks me a question about preemption system, I can answer that.
I think if it's a question we can answer based on decisions already made,
Decisions already made,
then I
and
think it's
knowledge.
reasonable.
I think that's fair, that's
Yeah.
a fair statement.
Yeah,
But it's decisions that we're going to be making.
correct, yeah, oh, yeah, right, at that point, thank you for the input.
Yeah.
We'll bring it to the next meeting, when we actually discuss and decide that.
Makes sense.
Everybody in agreement?
Yes.
I'll take care of that tomorrow.
Thanks, Mitch.
Chief, I brought something up a month or so ago that, in the prior committee to this, there was a presentation from another design firm that we did not choose, and it's out there, and someone picked up on it and said, you know, blah, 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 blah.
Right.
Have we taken it off? Have we
Yeah,
taken it
so what we did, as soon as you sent that to me, I immediately reached out and I disabled that feasibility. I didn't get rid of it, I just disabled that link to that feasibility
Okay.
page. That's when we started talking and Mitch got involved in creating the link off of the building committee page. Because there's nothing on that feasibility page that is pertinent to what we're talking about now.
No.
It truly isn't. That process started, happened, voted on, purchased the land, done. So now where we are, when they go in, the only thing they can see is the building committee page. And then, it's still archived, it's not deleted, so it's, you know, we still have the history of it. But they see the building committee page, and then click on the link to get to the page that I managed that shows.
Thank you. Yep.
But yes, that was confusing to some people.
Yeah, it was, so we, through Tim and the administration office and the chief, everyone was able to consolidate that there's one place and it's current information only.
Okay, any other business?
Don, if I could go back to a similar issue to what we were talking about before about public input and things like that. I think it would be a good idea on our regular business agendas to have a public input or audience and communications item, whether it be at the beginning or end of our agenda, so that if there are members of the public that do want to ask us a question here, that they have that ability.
How does the rest of the board feel?
It depends on the agenda of a given meeting. I mean, the process to make sessions.
The way I always came up,
Oh, yeah.
I've been working in the government for 40 years, right? Is if there was an item on the agenda, that
Since you were
item.
10? Since you were 10?
He did math.
I wish. We can, okay, I'll go with that. So, if there's items on the agenda, someone wants to speak to that item
Yes.
only.
Yep.
That would be up to the board to decide if we wanted to allow that, but not just a general, I want to talk about
Yeah,
something.
that's absolutely another way of addressing the same concern is, at the beginning of this meeting, you made a statement about there's no opportunity for public input in this meeting. I think there should be opportunity for public input in the meeting in some way, shape, or form. We have a great audience, but not a large audience. If somebody wants to ask a question that is pertinent, I think it's a good idea to hear that input.
The only possible concern I have with that, Mitch, there's a couple of possible concerns, but the biggest one is, well, I can't make the meeting, you have to make all the meetings hybrid because I want to do it on Zoom. And we don't have that, we're not doing that right now.
Right.
Our meetings are in person, and I think most of the committee has decided that that's how we want to meet. So I don't want to say it's open for public comment, and then if people say, well, it's not open for public comment for me because I can't be there. So I'm just concerned that
I think you open it up to the extent you can. I don't know whether, sometime soon we'll have the technical ability for hybrid meetings. That's up to the chair to decide whether we do that or not. We'll be the guinea pig for that on the select board. I wouldn't put that on this group. But I am concerned about the public perception and the public reaction if someone comes in and has a question, a legitimate question, or something that is just generally useful, that might be useful feedback. I've learned a lot from the last year and a half that the select board has had that kind of participation. We get some really good, meaningful input during that process. I don't want us to turn that away.
I agree though with the content-specific aspect of
Yeah.
this idea, because if our designers are not here and there are questions
Yeah.
about the building design, we shouldn't be answering those.
Right, yeah,
So
there's,
I think,
yeah.
I think there still has to be some framing of the way that we, like, treat that item on the agenda. But, I mean, select board has so many different issues at
Mhm.
once, you know. So, I think that makes sense. That
You
has
also
to
need to
relate to the
limit-
agenda.
You know, you have 3 minutes.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. I don't anticipate we will get many questions at many meetings. But to explicitly say we won't take them, I don't think that's the look we should convey.
And unless we post that we're going to have, I don't think it's fair, let's say
Correct.
Henry and Ron came tonight, and we let them all of a sudden start talking. We have to post that we're going to start talking. That's why tonight there was.
It wasn't on the agenda.
Well, you know, if it's related to agenda, it's up to you whether you will respond to an audience member. And I think we should respond to audience members. And I agree, it should be related to things that we're discussing. So, you know, if in 6 months somebody wants to talk about the height of the retaining wall, that's too late. That will be done by that point. If someone wants to ask about the site, thanks for the input, you know, and so forth. If you are not here to answer the question, we just can't answer it. I don't think anyone would have a problem with that. But if someone would say, hey, you should look at the fire station in Franklin, I'm just making that up because I happen to drive by that every day on the way to work, and they've got a tower that's beautiful and whatever, you know, like, okay, that's good, I'll look it up on the web.
And I can see it as public input or public question, but I wouldn't want to get into arguing
Correct.
decisions. And I
Right.
wouldn't want public input all the way through a meeting, because I think that becomes divisive about everybody that's here. That's like having an extra member on the board.
I'm used to seeing it at the end of the meeting. I'm used to seeing public input at the end of the meeting.
At the end. Is the board comfortable with that?
Yes.
Okay.
I'll make sure I add it to the agenda.
And that it would be no more than 3 minutes. Okay.
At-
Agreement?
At the chair's discretion.
Okay.
Thank you.
Any other business? Hearing none, do I hear a motion?
Madam Chair, a motion to adjourn.
Second?
Motion been made and seconded, all those in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you
So-
very much.
We'll see you
Thank you.
next
Thursday,
Thursday.
at the library, at 7 o'clock.